What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and to another WNBA video. We got a two-game slate to jump into for Thursday, May 29th. So we'll break down and analyze each of those games, talk about which way that I'm leaning as far as the points and the spread, and we'll also go over any player props that I found in those games that I like. Then any plays that I put in officially myself, make sure you check down there into the pinned comment. You're going to find a link down there that will send you over to the Guy Boston Sports website. That's where all of my final plays will live for free. But before we dive into the action for today, let's go ahead and take a look back at Tuesday, what we took and how that went down. Now we finished 3-3 on the night, which was pretty disappointing, man, because we had a 3-1 start to the day. We took the Liberty team total over 88.5, and that cashed. Took Natasha Cloud over 12.5 points, and that does not cash. She had a pretty bad shooting night. Then we took the Wings on the money line. They hit that as well. Took the Lynx laying a 1.5 in the first quarter, and that one cashed. Then we go into that late game, man, right? Like I said, starting off 3-1, we have Courtney Vandersloot under 5.5 assists. Why? Because the data was great, man. She had cashed that in about, 164 games in a row? Man, she had 5 at the half, I believe, maybe after the first quarter. She was racking up the assists quick, man. She finished with 11 on the day, so obviously we do not cash by a long shot on that one. Took a same game parlay also in that game, took the Mercury on the money line, which they do come from behind and win. They just put up a ton of points in the process, man. We had taken a alternate total under 165.5, which made sense at the time, man. Both these teams were playing at the slowest pace in the W. Chicago couldn't score for, to save their lives or anyone else's lives. The Mercury were playing with the top defense in the W. And yeah, 94-89 in regulation. Not even overtime in that one, right? So ton of points put up. Like I said, we finished 3-3 on the day. So we're sitting at 25-25 on the year, still at 500, and we are down a quarter unit. So we have room to improve, and we look to do that right here, man. Let's get started. Let's jump into the action, guys. Hit that like button down there for me if you can. Hit subscribe if you have not already. Let's go ahead and get into our first game, guys. We got the Golden State Valkyries taking on the New York Liberty. This one opened up Liberty 18.5, seeing them now favored at 18. The total opened up at 164.5. It's now at 163.5, so starting to move down a little bit. 7 p.m. tip-off time for this one. These two are going to meet again, man. They just played on Tuesday, also in New York. This is the last game of a three-game road trip for Golden State, while the Liberty will have to turn around and travel to D.C. right after this one for a game with the Mystics tomorrow night. So a potential look-ahead spot here for New York, back-to-backs with travel involved. Those are never ideal. The first ever head-to-head matchup between these two teams went pretty close to as expected, right? New York, you know, felt to ass, man. No other way to put it. They jumped out on the Valkyries and took a 22-3 lead to open up the game. New York took this one with ease, man. 95-67 open up the year. 4-0. That's four straight games of scoring at least 90 points to open up the year. So offense is rolling, man. They shot 50% from the field, 40% from deep, off of 30 assists to go against just 13 turnovers. And then they forced Golden State into 20 turnovers and just 34% shooting overall from the field. The Valkyries just really had no answer inside for Stewie or JJ, man. And I think that's another thing that most of us expected heading into this game, right? New York's size and their length is really their biggest advantage over most teams in the W, and they hold a pretty distinct advantage over the Valkyries in that regard. The Liberty lead the W in overall shooting percentage. They are third in the league for three-point shooting percentage, and they are knocking in the most threes overall per game. They're the only team still averaging over 90 points per game, sitting at 94 points per. That's a whole 6 points per game higher than second place Indiana. And the Valkyries, on the other hand, are dead last for shooting percentage from the field, although sixth for three-pointers made per game. They are also dead last for shooting percentage in that regard, and they've averaged just under 74 points per game to open up the year. That is second to last in the W. I don't see much changing here for the Valkyries. This is obviously a game in which New York can just coast to victory. But with that said, I'm not looking to play 18 points with them right on the first leg of a back-to-back, one in which they have to travel right afterwards. Although, a short distance, it's still travel. So I also, I got to expect some regression at some point because for as talented as they are, man, we can't expect this Liberty team to shoot the lights out from deep every single game. They've been hot, man. After a 19% display from deep in their opener, they've since shot just under 41% from three, which would have them sitting nicely above the currently first place Mystics, who are shooting 38%. So yeah, I mean, you got to expect some regression at some point, and after such a convincing win over the same team just 2 days prior, you can't help but be concerned New York's going to overlook this team and look ahead to traveling to play that upstart Washington team tomorrow night. With that said, I do fully expect New York to win, and I expect them to win by double digits still, but also would not be surprised one bit if Golden State covered this line. This has backdoor cover potential written all over it, so I'd lean Golden State with the points here, but come on, man. Ain't no way you're going to catch me running to the window with a Valkyrie play in a game against the Liberty, no matter how many points you give me. So that's going to stay a lean. I just can't lay that many points with the Liberty, man. For the total, though, the full game landed slightly under on Tuesday, and we cashed on the Liberty team total over in that one. We played it that route to avoid the chance of Golden State not doing their part to hit an over, and that was a good read, man, end of the day, because the Valkyries go for just 67 points, right? And we fall just under that 163 and a half mark that the books had it set at, landing at 162. So I would look over here in this one though, and yeah, even full game. I just feel like we don't get the same exact defensive effort for a full 40 minutes out of New York. We see a little regression out of them, not only offensively, but probably defensively as well. And I just think this is a game that we see the Valkyries get up over 70 and into like the mid 70s or so, while New York gets into the high 80s, but like fails to hit 90 for the first time this season. Thinking like an 88, 74, 75 type game, you know what I mean? Something like that, where New York still does, like I said, win by double digits, but it is a little bit closer than anticipated. And, we see a little bit more from the Valkyries than what we saw from them prior in Tuesday's game. Player prop I would be looking at is Veronica Burton of the Valkyries. Her points over 11.5. And we get that at minus 110 on FanDuel right now. Now we can scroll on down and see Tiffany Hayes is a game time decision, which is just going to account for more minutes for Veronica Burton. We can scroll down just a little bit. Let's look at her in her last five. That's going to get us closer to the start of this season. This is actually the start of the year for Golden State. Now we can see that she only landed at 2 points, right? But in her last three games, she's getting up over that line. She crushed it here with that 22 points, but she is getting over the mark there. So hitting at a 75% rate on the year. And if we scroll on down, I think we can just let's just filter that to this season, right? Yeah, 75% on the year. Now, if we scroll on down, we can see that her minutes has increased, right? And I do believe that that is with, Tiffany Hayes being out of action. Veronica is seeing more time on the court, and we can see that her usage is going up as well. And if we scroll on up here, just look at this New York Liberty defense. Obviously, they are superb, right? Sitting at second in terms of points allowed overall. But if we look at them specifically against the guards, that does drop down to 11th. So definitely some room for Veronica Burton to have another game here. She did go up over that mark in this prior meeting on Tuesday. So I do like this one here. Like I said, Veronica Burton over 11.5 points, minus 110 on FanDuel. Now, another one I would be looking at here in this game would be Jonquel Jones, her three-pointers over 1.5. That is sitting at plus money right now. And if we can see her on the year, she's also hitting that at a 75% rate, right? Two against the Valkyries on that game on Tuesday. And if we scroll on down, look at her three-point attempts, we can see that they have just increased as the season has gone on through these first four games. 5 attempts in each of her last two games, and she is hitting at a 47% rate so far this season. And if we scroll on over here to check out the Valkyries, their three-point defense is not the greatest, right? Sitting at 11th in terms of three-pointers given up per game. So it's another one that I'm looking at right here at plus money right now, plus 140 at Bet365 is the best price that we're going to find for that one. Jonquel Jones for three-pointers over 1.5. In our second game, looking at the Dallas Wings taking on the Chicago Sky, we have a 8 p.m. tip-off time for this one. Wings opened up 3.5-point favorites. That is now down to 2.5. Total sitting at 169.5. The Wings picked up their first win over the lowly Sun, right, in blowout fashion. They put up the most points of any team this season so far in the process, 109 to 87. They now sit at 1-4. The Sky, on the other hand, they finally looked like a legit WNBA team, right? Just in time to ruin my 3-1 start to the night, like I said. I'm not salty. But yeah, man, they jump out to a double-digit first-half lead over the Mercury in Phoenix, but just could not close that one out, man. They fall 94 to 89. They drop to 0-4 on the season. Now, look, guys, right from the top here, this is a game that's just like not really attractive whatsoever from a betting standpoint because one thing specifically, man, who the hell are the Sky, right? What team are you? What team do we get today? We saw them get annihilated by the Fever and the Liberty. And I decided to cut Chicago some slack after those two games, right? Those are two of the toughest teams in the W. And Chicago is clearly right smack in the middle of a rebuild, so we'll cut them some slack, right? But then we take the Sky catching some points their next time out against the Sparks, who have also been wildly inconsistent, and they again lose by double digits to start the season 0-3. So at that point, I've written off Chicago as one of the worst teams in the W. Looking at them really no better or worse than Connecticut, right? I have them down in that bottom tier with the Sun. And then what do? They come out and put 89 points up on who's been the best defense in the league to open the year behind a crazy shooting display from Ariel Atkins. She kind of looked like Neesmith out there against the Knicks, right? In the first half against Phoenix, man. She was just splashing whatever she put up. Angel Reese was super aggressive and found her way to the line as well early and often in that one. So, like I said, man, which Chicago team do we get here tonight? That's the biggest question. Despite the 1-4 record, though, Dallas isn't going to be an easy out for them whatsoever, man. Hence them being favored here in this game. We've seen them play Minnesota well 2 games, losing by only 4 the second time around in Minnesota. Seattle and Atlanta both beat them by just 8, but these were games that Dallas also was still they were able to hang around and claw their way back into. They kept both games competitive there at the end, despite falling behind by double digits earlier in those contests. So Dallas has not looked bad whatsoever. They're just a younger, rebuilding team with a lot of new pieces as well that they're integrating in with a new head coach as well. So a lot of things in shuffle still over there in Dallas, but starting to piece it together, starting to look better. Right? They looked damn good against the Sun. Now, obviously, it's the Sun, but offensively they were really moving and grooving and starting to really look like they're starting to click and get more in sync. With that said, though, we gotta expect some regression from Dallas as they shot 56% from the field and 50% from deep. But even with that in mind, man, you gotta be impressed looking at Paige Beckers and how she's improved game to game this early into her career. She put up 21 points in that game on 8 of 10 shooting to go along with 7 dimes, 5 boards. She's averaging 14 and 6 assists, right, to go against just 2 turnovers per game. She's still adjusting to the W, sure, but she's doing so at a much more rapid pace than I expected her to. That's for sure. This is a game though that ultimately I'd be leaning towards Dallas, but I'm not sure that I'm ready to lay points with them and expect them to win by multiple possessions, especially on the road and especially with the question marks on what to actually expect out of the Chicago team. So I need to see more from both of these teams before I'm willing to throw money on them in a spot like this. So Dallas lean, but I'm not sure that I get anywhere with it. That money line price is dropping though, so that might be something that I do look at. But I don't know, man. After Chicago, like I said, it's just kind of hard. Which team do we get? Because if we get anywhere close to how they played in Phoenix on their home court, I would probably start looking towards Chicago. These two do meet again in Dallas on Saturday, so maybe this is a wait and see type game, right? Let's go ahead and watch this one out, see what happens, and maybe we look to make a play on these two then. Looking at the total, we've seen the under hit in 3 of the 5 games played by the Wings this season, and then the over hit in 3 of the Sky's 4 games played this year. Both are pushing the pace and playing with a ton of tempo. Chicago is third in the W for pace, with Dallas right behind them at fifth. We did see Chicago just kind of dictate the pace against the Mercury on their home court even. Man, Coach Marsh wants them to play fast. And if they can get their shots falling like they did against Phoenix, they can put up some points pretty quick. Dallas isn't going to shy away from an up-tempo game either, so I'll lean over, but that number is sitting a little higher than what I would feel comfy playing this at. A mid 160s would definitely feel a lot better. You got to worry, like, what if Chicago can't get it going and goes flat on offense again, like we've seen in 3 of their 4 performances so far? So I'll lean over, but much like the side, man, I'm not sure that I'll get there with this. I just need to see more consistency from Chicago for one. And then with, a rookie running the show over there in Dallas, the streaky Enrique Iguodala as second fiddle over there. Yeah, I'm not ready to put my money on an over here for this one just yet, but we'll see, man. I might get there. If that number starts coming down a little bit, we might take a look at it. I will say though, Chicago has not given up less than 90 points at any point this season. However, in their 4 games, they have allowed 90 or more. So maybe a look, if anything, here would be to look at the Dallas team total, and then we don't got to worry about Chicago and what they do on their end, right? So I think that team total, I think it was sitting at it was either 84.5 or 85.5 when I checked earlier. So yeah, man, make sure you check the pin comment. If we do look at anything in this game, it would probably be the Dallas team total. Then a prop we could look at in this one would be Enrique Ngumbawale looking at her assist over 3.5. Now it is juice minus 150 over there at Bet365, but the data does support it pretty heavily. We can see her hitting at a 80% rate this season, right? And then we can come on up. I mean, we can even look, we can push it back into last year. She was hitting still at an 80% rate in her last 10. You can see there in her last 20, 80% rate, right? So she is a willing distributor. We can see a lot of green on the board here. And if we scroll on over here, look at Chicago. They are 12th. That is second to last for assists given up overall, and then to the guard position as well, sitting at 12th. So we definitely like to see that. We can look at this insight from Outlier. She has exceeded 3.5 assists in 9 of her last 10 games on the road. That's a 90% hit rate. So I am liking this one. Enrique Agubawale, her assist over 3.5. We can get that at bet 365 minus 150. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful and useful. And if you did, please do not forget to smash the like button down below and hit subscribe if you have not already. That way you don't miss out on any of the content that we are dropping daily here at the Guy Boston Sports Channel. That's going to do it, man. Hope you guys all have a great night. Hope you all cash out, and I will see you back tomorrow.